Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Pigskin Pete and my man John from Always Irish. What's up, John?
How are you, my friend?
Well, I'm amazing and fantastic. You already know that, though.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. We're back with episode 5 of the Always Pigskin Show. That means we have 4 in the bank, and as it would have it, it is 4th of July weekend, the birth time of this great country that we call America.
Hey, we still think it's great. I don't know if everybody does, but I still do.
I think it's great. I mean, I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather live. I
Me
mean,
neither.
okay, great. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Let's be honest here. We were just talking about this before we started the stream. Not a whole lot going on in the sports world. I mean, we got baseball. I guess baseball is going to start back up, right? I mean,
We'll see. That's
yeah.
the plan.
Yeah. John, I'm getting nervous about the football season.
I'm telling you, I keep hinting towards this on my shows, on this show, and on Twitter, and I just keep taking heat. People don't want to hear it. And they're telling me, John, don't worry about it. It's all fine. And then every news story that comes out, I don't know. I don't know.
Let me put it this way. I'm not as nervous about the football season happening because I do think we're going to have a football season, at least in some shape or form. I'm more nervous about me waiting my entire life. We talked about this on the first episode.
I know where you're going to go, and I don't like it already.
Waiting my entire life to go to South Bend to watch Clemson play Notre Dame. And I went ahead as soon as they put the tickets on sale and bought the tickets through Vivid Seats. And now I'm worried that I might not be able to go to it. Even if they play the game, I still might not be able to go to it.
Yeah, it's a legitimate concern. I think a lot of people don't want to even think of the prospect of not having a normal football season. So when you bring it up or show these concerns, people say, John, don't worry about it. You're overreacting, whatever. Just before we came on, actually, I think I saw a tweet that USC is probably moving to online only classes for the fall.
Oh, that's bad news.
That is not a good sign that is not a good sign. That's a huge red flag if they're already going to make that move. And if they're going to decide that with this much time left in the summer, I think that's a red flag to me. But, the one thing I push back on is, people will tell me, John, the flu's worse than this, kills more people in a year. We don't shut down football for the flu. My point is, whether you think all this stuff is justified or not doesn't matter. The fact is that governments and the people in charge are treating this differently.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter whether you think it should be or not. Look at what we've all gone through the last 6 months. It is being treated differently, and that's how I'm looking at it. I don't care what you think of it. I'm looking at how people in charge are reacting.
Yeah, so yesterday, the governor of South Carolina, Henry Mcmaster. Have you ever heard this guy talk before? Henry Mcmaster?
I don't know.
This guy's an embarrassment to the state of South Carolina. He makes me ashamed to be from here. And this isn't political or left or right or whatever. The guy just can't even speak English. But anyway, that's a different point. But so he basically came out yesterday and said, if you don't start wearing your masks, we're not going to have high school or college football in the fall. Well, that's all great and fine for him to say that, but this guy's not doing anything to help the cause. He's just talking down to all the citizens of South Carolina like a bunch of children. He's not putting a mandatory mask order out there. He's not closing down the restaurants and the retail stores. In fact, Clemson was one of the first. South Carolina was one of the first states to open up all of those sort of things, along with Georgia and Tennessee and Texas and Florida. All the dumb states. But anyway, so. I don't. First of all, I don't think that's going to happen. Henry Mcmaster knows damn well that college football in the state of South Carolina is religion, and if for some reason he's the reason, if he puts some sort of order, we're not having sports in the fall, he will not get reelected in 2 years. He's up for a reelection in 2022, I think. Yeah, he won't get reelected. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong or indifferent. It just won't happen.
Yeah, it's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I understand people are saying it's still a long time off. Don't worry. There's plenty of time to figure it out. I just keep each day more tweets and news stories come out that are red flags for us having anything that resembles a typical normal college football season. And the thing is, nobody knows what this is going to look like because we've never gone through this before in the modern era. And so nobody knows what's going to happen, how it's going to look. Everybody can have 80 different contingency plans and nobody knows what's going to happen. I think everybody's going to push this off until they absolutely have to make concrete decisions. They're going to push this back as far into the summer before having to make a hardline stance on this. I don't know, man, but it's like after all we've been through, give us football. We need something. Everybody needs something. Give us football.
Well, apparently the Alabama students are not too worried about having a football season. They're having COVID parties over there. You ever heard of anything like this before, John?
I love this story. Okay.
I don't love it because it does threaten the sport. But it is funny though.
It's seriously, I put out a tweet and I'm just sitting here thinking back to college, always Irish. Okay. Even more immature than I am now. Okay.
Of course. We all were at that age.
Yeah. And I started sitting there thinking, and I'm thinking to myself, if you think that the tweet was something about, I think the percentage is 0 that you could bring a bunch of college kids back to these campuses physically and then tell them, oh, by the way, don't go to these bars, don't go to these parties, don't hook up with a bunch of people and expect that to happen. I think the odds of that are 0. College kids are going to go out. They're going to meet in groups. They're going to go try and find girls and guys to date and hook up with. Like, that's normal college student life. They're all going to be finally back with their friends. They're going to go out. They're going to go out. So I say that tweet. And then right after that, I read this news story and it warmed my heart. I didn't want to say, I told you so.
It warmed your heart.
But I'm going to read this. I'm reading this.
All right.
Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Several college students in an Alabama city organized COVID-19 parties as a contest to see who could get the virus first. Tuscaloosa City Councilor Sonia McKinstry said students hosted parties to intentionally infect each other. Yeah. News outlets reported. The party organizers purposely invited guests who already tested positive. She said the students put money in a pot and whoever got COVID first would win the cash in the bowl. Roll damn Tide.
Do you remember back in, let's say, 20 years ago, which is when we were college age, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, college parties consisted of toga parties, right? What we called PJ parties, Purple Jesus parties, which was where they had you dump every liquor under the sun into a bucket or whatever, and then you put some Kool-Aid or whatever, some fruit punch in there.
We call that jungle juice. Where in the Midwest,
jungle juice.
We call that.
We call it PJ, Purple Jesus, is what it was called. We always had purple Kool-Aid in there. Anyway, all kind of different names for it. But that was considered to be, a fun night, not contracting COVID. What the hell are these people? I'm telling you right now, if I was paying for my child to go to Alabama, and I found out that they were participating in this, I would yank them out there so fast their head would spin.
I don't get this. Like, I genuinely don't get this. I mean, I understand. Listen, I try and put myself back into 20-year-old me's mind. And I would probably go back to college, think I'm young, we're young, I'm still going to go out and hang out with my people. But I would draw the line at inviting people who already tested positive for this. I don't get it, but this is going to be wild. I don't, and you know what else?
Roll Tide, John.
Ain't nothing going to stop us. Yeah, but you know what else worries me here too? This latest COVID peak seems to be a direct result of what a lot of people did over the long Memorial Day weekend. And then there's a delay. And then you see these cases and hospitalizations hitting 2, 3, 4 weeks later. So you do the math. What do you think's going to happen on the 4th of July? Then you look out 3-4 weeks. Now you're getting into college football camp. So this is a critical time period. People make fun of me, tell me I'm overthinking this. I swear, watch out in about 3 weeks after 4th of July. See what happens.
John, I went to the beach the past 2 weekends, and I've never seen, I've lived here my whole life, and we go to the beach, every summer. Never seen that many people on the beach before. Tens of thousands of people, not one mask. Now, I wasn't wearing a mask either. I'll wear a mask when I go out in town, just, to make people feel better or protect people, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I'm nobody wearing a mask at the beach, right?
Yeah. And what are you going to do? Sweat all over that's, right. I get that. And at least that's outside.
Yeah.
So, I get that. And that's been my argument in Illinois from the beginning was leave the golf courses open and just don't let people go inside. That's about the safest outdoor activity.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Socially you could do. And
hell, you can social distance in golf with the people you're even playing with, as long as you're not riding in the cart.
Exactly. So, I think there's some reasonable middle ground there. And I get the argument if you're at an open beach and you're not laying right next to a stranger breathing on them. I get that. I'm just worried about what a few weeks post 4th of July is going to look like. People are getting antsy. They want to get out, see their people, do stuff. And I'm just worried that if we don't behave with that in mind, 3 to 4 weeks, if this blows up, it's a whole different issue because you're out of time at that point to figure out a college football plan.
So I've been of the opinion, and I'm still of the opinion, that college football will happen as long as it's left up to the conferences and or the universities, because the idea of no college football season could be catastrophic financially for certain universities, a lot of universities, and Clemson might even be one of them. Not that they wouldn't survive it, but it would be a big time hole to dig out of. The entire town of Clemson, not just the football team, not just the university, all the businesses that surround it and support it, they survive off the football season.
Yep.
So if it's left up to the universities and conferences alone, I think they'll even if there's no fans or whatever they try to do, if conference only, whatever kind of crazy scheme they come up with, it'll happen. The government steps in is a different story. If the governor of the state of South Carolina says we're not having any gatherings over 10 people, well, that includes a football team because there's 22 people on the field, and that's just the ones who are playing. That doesn't include the guys on the sidelines and the camera guys and the doctors and coaches and whatever. You're talking about hundreds of people at that point. So anything outside of a government step in, whether it's federal or state level, I think we'll have football. But that's where the rub is, because South Carolina could say we're allowing football with no fans, but then just throwing a state out there, Missouri could say we're not allowing any football at all, and so that screws up everybody's schedule. So the whole thing's it's been a mess, and really but the time is counting down, because we're literally a month away from students coming back to campus or not coming back to campus full time. And so at what point we got to hear something within the next couple of weeks. Somebody's got to make a decision.
Yep. That's the problem. Everybody that's why this is such a tricky issue. You cannot issue one guideline and apply it to every different school in every different state. That's not going to work here. That's the biggest issue. And every time I ask my people, even at Notre Dame, what's going on, they're pushing off these decisions as far as they can. The clock's about to run out. I mean, we're getting, and you bring up a really good point. Outside of professional sports and football teams where they're usually planted in big metropolitan areas, you cannot underestimate the economic impact of all these small little college towns. South Bend, Indiana is one of them.
Clemson, South Carolina is one of them.
Notre Dame football is the economy in that city.
Absolutely.
All that money just for those 6 home games.
The town of Clemson would not exist if it weren't for Clemson's football team.
Yeah.
In 2020, it wouldn't. I mean, back in 1920, it did, but it wasn't in 2020.
Yeah. And you know what else I'm learning is just how much the football revenue is important to everything else going on in these institutions, how far that money stretches for everything. And so I don't know, man. I don't know what you're going to have. And you know what I think may end up happening is the inequity of certain places that are going to play, allow a bunch of fans for their home games, and others that might play but allow nobody. It just might be a season where schedules aren't equitable, attendance isn't equitable, home field advantage or not, fans or not. I have no idea. Nobody has any idea. And all these higher ups can't lock in a plan now. There's too many moving parts. So I don't know, man. But
I've been depressed about possibly not coming to South Bend because I've been looking forward to it for the past, ever since they announced that we were having that game for a couple of years now. I've known I'm coming, and then I obviously went through and bought the tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get my money back if they don't have it.
But now wait a second.
But will they reschedule the game for 2021? I mean, how will that work?
A few weeks ago, you were feeling encouraged about this, and we talked about a season ticket holder would be one of the few that are allowed in, and you got your tickets from one.
But I'm talking.
You sound a lot more negative now.
I'm talking about it. Yeah, if they have a limited fan base, then I would still get to go probably because I bought my tickets from a season ticket holder. But they don't allow any fans, and then I'm out.
I don't see that. I really don't.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Can you imagine the game of the year, Notre Dame Clemson? You just hear crickets and there's nothing.
Yeah, and they've had all kinds of crazy things like pumping in fake crowd noise and superimposing like they did with NASCAR. Have you seen this? Yeah. Superimposing like digital fans in the stands for TV, visuals, which is completely ridiculous. I don't know why you would do that, but
you know what? I don't get that whole pumping in fake fan noise thing. I would almost rather embrace whatever this new
the quietness
experience is. But like we talked about the PGA Tour right before we came on. Mm-hmm. I'm enjoying not hearing some drunk behind the tee yelling it's in the hole on a 500-yard shot and hearing the players.
I'm with you, but with all due respect, football is completely different. Listen, Clemson's biggest advantage at playing at home is the crowd noise.
Yep.
If they're playing against, even if it's a crappy ACC team like NC State or Georgia Tech, whoever comes to Clemson, or a good team, doesn't matter. The stadium is intimidating and the crowd noise is intimidating. Without that, it definitely levels the playing field. Now, of course, Clemson's still miles ahead of most teams in the ACC. They'll probably beat them just by skill alone. Yeah. But listen, for Notre Dame, that's a huge home field advantage, especially in November with Clemson coming there with the crowd noise and the whole thing. If there's no crowd there, how much of a home field advantage is it for Notre Dame?
I guess you're just not traveling. Would be it,
right. And maybe the weather, depending on what the weather is that day.
Yeah. And the other thing is that time of the year in South Bend, you could have 60 degrees and comfortable, or you could have freezing rain, or you could have snow. Like, who the hell knows? By the time you get into November in that area, they get all that weather right off the lake, and it just depends what's going on.
But I'm going to tell you right now, if there's 0 fans in the stands and you're allowing Trevor Lawrence to communicate with his offense at free will, it's going to be a disadvantage for Notre Dame.
Yeah, that makes sense. I said, I think what you're going to end up with is these conferences like the SEC. Do you really think they're going to limit their fans? I don't. Do you?
Yeah, well, maybe. Yeah, sure.
Because I think they would be the conference first and foremost, just how much religion's a football, or football is a religion down there, that they're going to try and fill it up. Again, and that's the inequity I'm talking about. Though. You're going to have some teams with the home field advantage and some with nothing.
But this goes back to the state things. And the state governments for these southern states, whether it's Georgia or Alabama or Arkansas or Mississippi or South Carolina or whatever, they're going to make the call in the best interest of the state rather than just the football team. So if they say you're not allowed to have more than so many people at an event, then the teams have no choice but to abide by that.
Yeah, you're right. And when I keep in touch with the connections I have that are kind of in the back rooms at Notre Dame, what they tell me every time I talk to them is they have all these contingency plans, and then every time they meet, everything changes because there's new information. It's a really uncomfortable position because decisions can't really be made in a concrete fashion now, and the sand's coming out of the hourglass here. And so that you're going to start sweating more and more every week because these decisions got to be made soon.
And we'll see it soon. I think within the next couple of weeks, somebody's got to step up and make a decision.
But you know what? Who's going to be that first team or conference to pull the plug? Nobody wants to be that.
We've already seen it happen. Some games are getting canceled in the lower level divisions. We haven't seen it in major college football yet. So, but you're right. And then if there is that first one that comes out, will it be a domino effect after that? I don't know.
That I don't know. The other thing I've heard is I heard today that there's some players that are really uncomfortable feeling like, okay, we're already not getting paid, and that's the deal. And now you're expecting us to do this and put ourselves in danger. I'm hearing there's players that are putting together a document to send to the NCAA or whomever saying, we're not very comfortable being in this position. We're not professionals. And now you're asking us to put ourselves at risk. I don't know where that's going to go. I've heard there's parents of football players who are now getting involved saying, well, wait a second now. I don't want my 20-year-old son sweating all over.
Now that makes sense to parents. As far as the players, I think the players will play at all costs. I don't think they care as much. I mean, you remember what it was like remember what it was like to be 19 years old? You'd want to play.
Yeah, I know I'd want to play, but I'm an idiot. So, I mean, but
so are they. They're 19 years old. Their brains aren't fully developed yet.
I'm 35 and mine's still not. So,
well, I know,
but so this is just all it's so stress provoking. And you know what else I say about this? All these ADs and all these government people, earn your damn money now. This is your chance to be a leader, figure out a solution, and earn your damn money. Notre Dame's AD makes freaking $40 million. Figure it out.
This is the problem with college sports. This is the problem with college sports as related to professional sports, because you have a commissioner of the NFL, a guy or Roger Goodell for the NFL. You've got whoever the guy is for the NBA, and so on and so forth. That they got one governing body who makes decisions for the entire landscape of that organization. You don't have that in college football.
Well, wait a second.
The NCAA is not that.
That's what I was going to ask. I thought they were the governing body, but I don't. Where are they with guidelines on this? Where are they with some uniformity of you got to do this and this? Where are they at?
The NCAA is the child spankers. If you had a recruiting violation, spank you on the butt and give you a reprimand for that. That's what they do. They do not make big decisions as far as this goes, and they won't on this matter either. They're going to leave it. They're going to leave it up to the states, the universities, and the conferences.
Yeah. Okay. Just go ahead and take a back seat then. That whatever. And then, did you hear Boomer Esiason on the Fan in New York? Did you hear what he said about Saban?
Yes. He said it about Clemson, Alabama, LSU, and Texas, I think.
And so for anybody who didn't hear this, he was on his radio show saying he could see this being an intentional angle for these coaches to get their group herd immunity now to the virus, so they get it all out of their systems now. And then when September comes, they're full of antibodies. Everybody else drops like flies and they're winning.
Let me tell you something about this. I spoke about this on my show last night or whenever it was. Anyway, this is, first of all, he's accusing these coaches and these teams of something that's criminal.
Yeah.
Because if they were doing, if a coach is like, hey, or a group of coaches is like, hey, let's get all these guys. This guy over here's got COVID. Let's put him in a hotel room with the three other guys, and let's get everybody. Let's sort of like the Alabama partiers, right?
Everybody cough on each other real quick.
That would be if one of those people died, or if it spread it to another coach or something and they died. That's a criminal offense. So I don't. First of all, I'm not taking anything Boomer Esiason takes seriously. I guess it's sort of a crazy theory he had. He probably was just speaking off the top of his head and said something he probably shouldn't have said. But that is borderline slander to say something like that.
Yeah,
about
I was a little surprised, and Boomer's not a lower name. I mean, he's on the Fan, WFAN in New York, been around forever. I was a little surprised, and he took backlash. I mean, I think people lit him up for that. But I couldn't believe when I heard him say that. I'm like, ooh, I mean, those guys want to win, but damn. I mean, that's pretty ballsy. I mean, but let me ask you this. This is something else that's come up. You were talking about your concerns about being able to meet with me in South Bend for Notre Dame Clemson. If Notre Dame said to you, you could come in here, but you have to sign this waiver saying that no matter what happens, you get sick, you die, you give it to your kids, whatever, that you can't come to us, would you sign that waiver and still go to the ball game?
I would, yeah.
Because I know that's been debated on Chicago radio here the last couple of days. They're saying a lot of these, or even pro sports, may say if we only allow 20% capacity, that 20%, you got to sign a waiver. If whatever happens here, it ain't our fault. You can't sue us.
See, here's the thing. I would, because I feel confident that I'm not in that really target range. My wife's generally healthy. I'm generally healthy. We're both around 40 years old. Mm-hmm. I would take my kids. I wouldn't take my parents.
Yeah.
But for myself, yes, I would sign the waiver, but I certainly would understand if somebody wouldn't want to sign the waiver too. I mean, that's understandable.
Yeah. And the other thing too, this is going to sound kind of like a cheap angle on my part, but I'll be honest. I'm a White Sox fan, and they were finally going to be decent this year, and then this all blew up. I love going to White Sox games. I just love it. I look at that different than Notre Dame Clemson. Like I don't need to go to any one of the White Sox 162 games.
Exactly.
The way I do Notre Dame Clemson, that's been circled on the calendar for years. It's one of only 6 home games. It's a big damn deal. I would weigh those differently just based on what they mean to me. I don't need to go to that 1 out of 100 of 82 home games or whatever.
And you make a great point here, because I wouldn't sign the waiver to go watch Clemson play Wake Forest.
Right. Yeah. So some of this is, I admit, how much am I willing to risk my health? Well, it depends on how important the event is I want to go to.
Absolutely.
And I'm being honest when I say, as much as I love my White Sox, I'll be watching them on TV, even though it's a half hour down the road, And so some of that comes into play too.
That's everything for me.
Yeah.
Literally, if this pandemic is still going on full force and we're still seeing high numbers of infections and whatever the case may be, if the country's still basically in full shock mode like they are right now, the only game that I would sign a waiver for would be to go play Notre Dame. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way I'm looking at this is I'm just trying to avoid unnecessary things, man. Like, I don't need to go fly somewhere right now. I don't need to go sit in a restaurant right now, even though they're open. I don't need to do those things.
But if it comes down to it, I don't have to fly to South Bend. We can drive. I mean, a little bit more convenient, but we can drive,
Yeah.
No big deal.
Actually, just
I'm all in on it.
Put me in
a hazmat suit if you have to. I'll be there.
I thought of you. I was driving home from work, and on the local Chicago station, as I was pulling in the driveway, Chicago's mayor just made some announcement. They're asking everybody coming into Chicago from all those southern states that are having trouble to self-quarantine for 14 days, document everything you're doing. If you're driving in, I don't think it's enforceable at all, because how the hell do you know where people came from, what they're doing?
That's why it's a stupid rule.
Yeah, I don't see how you can enforce it. The only thing they're going to try and do is, if you fly into O'Hare or Midway, and they're going to know where you're from. But even then, what are you going to follow somebody to grandma's house and make sure they stay there for 2 weeks?
Not only that,
it's not enforceable.
People that are coming to visit and not stay there are only coming for 3, 4, or 5 days or a week.
Right.
They're not staying for 2 weeks anyways. The whole thing is stupid.
Yeah. It's totally illogical. It's
nobody's following that.
Yeah. No, that doesn't make. You know what I want you to do though? I want them to only allow about 20,000 fans for Notre Dame Clemson. And I just want to see you in a big pigskin suit, all bright and all with the gas mask on the front. And you're going to have your own section at Notre Dame Stadium. They'll zoom right in on you. You're going to have a big always pigskin sign so people know to listen to the show.
Hey, this is a good angle. I'm glad you brought that up. You're giving me some ideas now. If there's like only like if I'm like one of the only people allowed in there, I'll make myself seen. You can put me in a purple and orange hazmat suit with a giant paw on the front of it.
There you go.
I'll hold up a big sign that says pigskin. But I don't even put a pig nose on that thing.
Yeah, like I think there's a real marketing opportunity for you there. If you have your own section and then you dress silly, you're going to be on you're going to be on NBC, baby. We always talk about our goal is to get on live TV or live radio. You're going to be on NBC.
I did have a viewer go to Boston College last year when Clemson went up to Boston College, and he held up a sign that said to subscribe to Pigskin Pete on YouTube. So I was very proud of that.
That's fantastic. I like that.
Yeah.
You know what else we got to infiltrate? Game day. We got to get some of our people with. I'm too old to be sleeping in the line for game day, but we got to get some younger kids to get in the front row with always pigskin.
Yes, I'm with you. All right, so we've gone way down the COVID-19 rabbit hole. And
listen, I know people sometimes don't like that, but it's a reality. You got to talk about this stuff.
Yeah,
I can't just ignore it like it's just gonna all of a sudden be fine.
It is what it is. The other subject we want to talk about is blue bloods and college football. What constitutes a blue blood to you, John?
I was going to ask you the same damn question. That's where I was going to start. Listen, I started doing some research on this, and the more articles and projects on this that I saw, the more variance there seems to be in terms of the formula to say who's a blue blood. And no matter where you look, their formula is different. And so maybe it's easier to ask, how many teams do you think could be considered a blue blood?
That's what I was just about to ask you.
Like, is it 5? Is it 15? Like, where's your cutoff?
I think just from public opinion, it's around 5.
Okay.
But I disagree with that. But first of all, I want to be upfront about this. For anybody who's wondering, do I think Clemson's a blue blood? No, I don't. I never have considered him to be that. But this is part of this. I think it has to do with your age, because everything changes over time.
Yeah.
So let's say you're a 50 or 60-year-old person right now. Obviously, Clemson's not a blue blood, and a lot of other teams like Florida State, you could put in that category. You would say is not a blue blood. Listen, there's maybe even a dozen other teams you could put in that category.
Yeah.
But let's say you're 18 years old right now, and so for the past 10 years of your life, you've been watching Alabama and Ohio State and Clemson, teams like that, win a lot of national championships, being in the playoffs every year, that sort of thing. So when they grow up, if Clemson goes on, let's say over the next 20 years to win another 2 or 3 national championships, to them, when they're 40 years old, Clemson will be a blue blood. They're not to me, right? Yeah. Do you understand where I'm coming from here? Yeah. So I think it's a time-related issue.
That makes perfect sense to me. And that's one of the questions that I was going to ask philosophically is, how much of this is, do you weight it in terms of historical versus current and recent? Is it a blend? Do you weight one more than the other? Here's the other thing. And I struggled with this. You can't even get people to agree on how many national championships teams have.
Well, that's true too.
Like, even if you wanted to use that as the most basic bar to measure this historically, you look at Notre Dame's, some of them say 8, some of them say 11, and some of them have double 11 for all the years we got screwed in the AP or they voted weird or, Right. So I couldn't even find a consensus on how many damn championships teams have. So how the hell can you measure it when you can't find common ground on something that basic?
The word blue blood alone to me is somewhat of not a good thing. Hear me out on this one.
Sure.
because I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and there's a lot of blue blood people, old money around here. And generally, they're not looked at as very good people. Like the word blue blood alone is somewhat offensive in some manner. In other words, it's sort of a sense of entitlement type of a word. Like Michigan, we both hate Michigan. Well, I don't hate Michigan as much as you do. And as a matter of fact, I don't really hate Michigan. I just like to laugh at them, for a lot of different reasons.
I hate them.
Would you consider Michigan to be a blue blood? I don't.
I think they would be on like the top of the second tier of that, probably. Now, see, here's the other question is, when you're asking how to measure this, there's no doubt Michigan has historical level
wins
in terms of wins overall. Yeah, overall wins. Give them that. But also, how do you measure things like fan reach, right? Like Michigan has a national sales rack, right? Like they have that fan. Like, do you?
So then what you're saying is only large universities with large alumni bases can be blue bloods, though. And and by the way, that might be one of the measuring sticks, because if you look at what most people consider to be blue bloods, they're all large universities.
Yeah,
with large
but
alumni
it's
bases.
not just that, though. Like, I wouldn't think that if they also didn't have the number one amount of wins of all time. So they do have some historical on-field data to back that up, right?
So let me ask you this. Let's say Michigan never wins another national championship for the rest of our lives and our children's lives. Let's go ahead 100 years from now. We're gonna transport ourselves to 2120. Okay. If they never win another national championship for the next 100 years, and they haven't won a legit, outright one since 1947, I know they split one in 97 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
All right, with Nebraska, I think it was. But that was not an outright one. That's a contested one. The last outright consensus one that they had was 1947. So if you go from 1947 to 2121, how long is that?
Yeah,
it's a long time. All right, so are they still a blue blood in 2121?
See, that's
what I'm saying. Like, once you're a blue blood, are you always a blue blood, or is it fade away?
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, because here's the other factor with the scenario you just brought up is, what else is happening in that window? Like, are there going to be other dynasties that then load up all these? Like, is it a 100-year cycle, type thing?
What was it? Penn? Don't they have the most national championships? Because it was.
And then I looked. I found out like Yale, Princeton.
Yeah, right. So look, do we in 2020 we don't consider Penn and Yale to be blue blood in the college football.
Okay.
So 100 years from now, nobody's going to consider Michigan a blue blood if they don't win anything between now and then. That's what my point is about. It's all about the time frame that you live in.
Yeah.
My children, if Clemson wins another couple of national championships in the next 20 years, we'll consider Clemson to be a blue blood. I don't consider them to be, but they will. And probably their contemporaries will too.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I was surprised when I just Googled this to look at what different thought processes were. Totally all over the map. How many? Some of them have 25 programs listed as blue bloods. No, there's no freaking way there's 25 college football programs I would consider a blue blood. Here's one interesting note. I found this, and it said there's only 8 blue bloods in college football: Alabama, Michigan, Nebraska, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Texas, USC. The rationale behind it was they've won 44 of the last 80 AP national championships.
Okay.
Therefore, that dominance, almost winning half of them, just those 8 teams. They're saying that's the easiest measure to make that decision right now. Do you agree with that or not?
I think the whole concept of blue blood is subjective.
It is. It depends on what you're putting in your formula to determine blue bloods.
Right, because also, again, I don't consider Clemson to be a blue blood, but they're still a top 15. They're number 14 in all-time wins. They have 3 national championships. They have 25 bowl wins. There's not 10 teams in America that have those 3 things.
Yeah,
there's not.
Yeah.
I'm talking about all time. So if you can't put Clemson in that category, I don't, I didn't look up the stats of Texas, for instance.
Yeah.
Are there, how many bowl wins does Texas have? How many conference championships do they have?
Right. And another interesting thing I saw on this is, everybody knows Notre Dame hasn't won a championship since '88. Obviously, I know that. I don't think their historical significance in the landscape of college football can be questioned. That kind of is what it is. If you value the forward pass, you should value Knute Rockne and Notre Dame. He's the one who modernized it. Okay.
Well, Notre Dame is one of the most Notre Dame will be a blue blood for a long time even if they don't win.
I think they have some significant history that helped college football evolve into what it is that will last longer, even if they don't win.
Right. They have something. They have something as far as that goes that most teams don't have.
Right. But I did find a bunch of these lists, and I'm scrolling down, and I'm not seeing Notre Dame on the Blue Bloods list on the top 5 where they usually land. And I look at the formula. And it's primarily based on division championships, conference championships is weighted. Well, guess what, Notre Dame? You're out, Yeah. So it's like any formula. It depends on the equation and what you're putting into it. But
it's totally subjective.
But I don't even think I would go 8 or 10 deep. When you're looking Blue Bloods, I'm thinking you're looking at 5 or 6, maybe. Figure out whoever you want them to be. Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, I think are 3 that should be in there no matter what. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Me too. And then after that, a lot of people have Oklahoma, Michigan, Texas, Nebraska.
I would see. It's hard to say any of those teams aren't. I'm not going to say they aren't.
Yeah.
But there is a case to be made for some of them that possibly aren't too. Like, it's the whole yeah,
it's a tricky discussion.
But again, this comes back to the timestamp situation, because it doesn't matter if Clemson wins the next 5 national championships; they're still not going to be considered a blue blood, right? I mean, blue blood is all about old.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. When you hear blue blood, you think historical.
It's all about what you did in the past. I mean, blue blood is literally saying your ancestry. I mean, it's a bloodline thing.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So in our lifetime, those same 5 or 6 teams will be considered blue bloods. But the next generation, our kids and their kids, they'll be looking at what's happening right now as being the blue blood line.
Yeah, I agree, and it made me laugh because the easiest bar there would be to measure this would be national championships, and I couldn't find a consensus on any of them. It's like they're arguing over who voted for who in the 40s, and Notre Dame got screwed here and another team there. I can't even find an accurate number of titles to measure.
Minnesota, let's take just an ancillary team doesn't have a real good chance of winning a national championship in the next couple of years. Let's say Minnesota all of a sudden just for some reason let's say they win 9 out of the next 10 national championships, and it's just like it's the craziest thing that ever happened in sports. Everyone's shocked. They still won't be considered a blue blood until
100 years from now when that's history. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's this discussion. I don't know. It tends to come up in the middle of summers when there isn't much going on. But to me, it would be ideal if this was a combination of historical relevance and accomplishment and recent as well, some blend of that. But I think there's different unique cases depending on what certain teams have given to the history of college football or not. It's a weird discussion.
I will tell you this. Being a blue blood, I guess, is something you can always pull out of your hat or whatever in a trash talking session. I'd rather have the national championships now.
The next thing I was going to say out of my mouth
than 30 years ago.
That's a loser's argument.
I'd rather have them now than 30 years ago. Every Michigan fan out there is pulling their hair out. They would trade places with Clemson right now in a heartbeat and trade those wins back in. I promise they would.
Yep, I was going to say that too. If you go back, well, that's how you spot a losing argument. Well, look at what we've done over the last 100 years. Yeah,
I want to see the national championships while I'm alive.
Yeah, that'd be nice, right?
What happened in 1940 did not do me any good right now.
I like those leather helmets.
Yes, right. All right. I think we got about 15 minutes left here. I don't know if we have enough time to get into we keep pushing the realignment, the conference realignment talk off.
Now, wait, we don't have to, I don't want to get into breaking down, dividing up all these teams. Can I just ask you like one clarifying question on that?
You can, but it's going to lead down a rabbit hole, but go ahead.
Just let me ask.
Okay.
I've been doing research on this topic for a few weeks because I keep seeing things written and talked about it. Here's my question. Why? Like, why is this being discussed? Is it just something to talk about in the summer when there's nothing going on? Or is there actual rationale that is making this realistic? Or is this just a fun exercise?
It's both.
Like, I guess I don't know what's jump-starting people to write all these articles about their way to redo all this. What is the motivation behind that?
See, this is why I said it's gonna be a rabbit hole.
Like, what are they trying to do?
There's multiple angles to come at this. A lot of this has to do with the playoff, that there's 5 conferences and 4 spots, and then you have the independents like Notre Dame. The other part of it is the strength of these conferences, right? So the conferences like the ACC and the Pac-12 are getting killed right now as far as you have an easier path to the playoffs and all that.
Yeah.
So all these things have something to do with it. Plus the fact that the Big 12 is not 12 teams at all. It's 10 teams. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why they aren't adding teams. If it were up to me, they'd dissolve the Big 12 altogether and spread them out. This has been the theory for a long time now, is that they should have 4 super conferences instead of a Power 5. And a lot of these group of 5 teams like UCF and Houston and Cincinnati and all, Memphis, these sort of teams, Boise State, should be joining the Power 5 because
put them into the one in their geographical region. Yeah.
Right. So eventually what it comes down to is the theory is you make 4 super conferences that all have 14 teams. So you don't have like the ACC has 14 teams. The Big 10 has 14 teams. The SEC has 14 teams, but then the Pac-12 only has 12. And then the Big 10 only has, or Big 12 only has 10. The whole thing's a mess. And so you have different sort of in other words, so because the Big 12 only has 10 teams, they play 9 conference games and they all play each other.
Yeah, the round robin.
The round robin, which is a completely different scenario than all of the other conferences. So the whole thing is it's all about equality, basically, and making it as fair and as uniform as possible. I don't really care so much about the conference realignment, and a lot of the geography doesn't match up either. In other words, why is West Virginia in the Big 12? I don't think geography really matters as much as it used to.
Yeah.
Because of travel is just easier now than it was 50 years ago,
Yeah, that's a big question I have as far as the Notre Dame angle on this, because in every model I've seen projected, I see 2 different things with Notre Dame. The geographical model has them in that Midwest, Northern, with Michigan, Ohio State.
Big 10 country, yeah.
Yeah, but we already talked about if Notre Dame's forced to join a conference, it ain't going to be that. It's going to be the
ACC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right there, even with my little local team, I see that they're not going to stick around there. They're going to want to join the ACC for the reasons we talked about. The overlapping academia goals, research goals for all these institutions. So I just go back to why are we doing all this? Like, do people hate the current setup, or I guess why? And what would need to happen to jumpstart this to be a reality?
Well, and I think I might have misspoke. I said if they made 4 super conferences, they all have 14. No, what I meant was actually 16, because if you dissolved one of the conferences like the Big 12,
okay,
and then you added some group of 5 teams like UCF and stuff like that, you have 16, not 14. Anyway, that's not important. But I think what it is that you have teams like UCF going out there and pronouncing national championships a couple of years ago because they went undefeated and they didn't have a chance to play in the playoffs. That's part of it. The Big 12 has a lot to play with this too. But to me, it's not about the conferences so much as it is about divisions. And I've made several videos about this, and it's a very convoluted sort of thing, but I don't see the need for divisions in college football. We've only had divisions for the past 20 years or something. It's not like we've always had that.
Yeah.
As the conferences got bigger, then they said, okay, well, now we have to separate it. And so Clemson has to play the same teams every year. And even in the ACC, we can go 8 years without playing Virginia Tech. That's ridiculous if they're in our conference or Miami, unless we play them in an ACC title game. There's no need for that. There's just no need for it. Eliminate the divisions. You can play a different rotating schedule in your own conference every year, and you can do that in every conference. I don't care if there's 30 teams in the conference. This whole idea that you have to have divisions just because you have 14 more teams in the conference is complete malarkey. It's totally it's a total non-factor. And as a matter of fact, I think it would make college football more interesting for and for Notre Dame fans, they don't care because they're not in a conference or a division. I get that.
Yeah.
But for somebody like me who's an ACC, I would like to see Clemson play Miami every third year.
Schedule flexibility, schedule diversity.
And then what you do is you rotate the schedules. You play 9, and this is the other thing is every conference should be playing the same amount of conference games.
Yeah.
Right now, the ACC plays 8 conference games, but the Big 10 and the Big 12 play 9 conference games.
Yeah.
Right. And same, the SEC plays only 8 conference games. Make them all 9, whatever it is. At the end of the season, you take your conference schedule, you take the 2 teams that had the best conference record, like they do in the Big 12 right now, and make them play in the championship game.
Yeah.
It's really not that hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, where this gets complicated is I thought all these conference deal, like I said, that's not my wheelhouse to worry about all this conference stuff. But how do you navigate these TV deals and all this different stuff that who's getting out of what pool? Is this something where we see what the new playoff format might look like when the playoff TV deal ends, see what the new plan is, and then possibly restructure according to what that's going to be? Like, I don't get what is going to jumpstart this to be a reality. That's what I don't get.
To me, the TV deals would be better because every conference has pretty much a strong division and a weak division.
Yeah.
And so when you mix it up more, in other words, Georgia plays Alabama this year for the first time in like 9 years in the regular season. I know they played in the postseason before.
Yeah.
But which is more compelling? Georgia playing Vanderbilt every year, or if they play Alabama this year or every third year?
Yeah.
So the TV the money actually will be better, and the same thing goes with the ACC. Clemson's by far and away the best team in the ACC, but they're by far and away the best team in their own division. If they played Miami, Virginia Tech, and Virginia instead of Georgia Tech and Wake Forest and Duke, or not Duke, but whatever, Boston College, it would do better for ratings. And it would be a more enjoyable experience for the fans. They probably sell more tickets to the games too.
Yeah. I think schedule flexibility is very appealing to a lot of people. And what you're describing is a part of why I react so poorly to the idea of Notre Dame being in a conference full time. I always tell people you're locked into your schedule. Like, it's kind of boring. Like, I can't imagine that world. It would feel boring. Oh, we're playing them again.
And
like, I don't know.
So these rivalries they've built over the year, they call them cross-divisional rivals. So in other words, like Georgia plays Auburn every year. They're not in the same division, but they are in the same conference. You can still keep that game, but but rotate the other ones.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Clemson can still play South Carolina out of the SEC. That's not part of the conference schedule. Clemson's the one they play every year out of division in the same conference as Georgia Tech. And they call that a division rival. I could care less if Clemson never played Georgia Tech again for as long as I live. Now, I realize there's a lot of Clemson fans out there that do love that game because it's always happened. It's been they've been playing that game for 100 years. And I get that. If they want to keep that one, fine. But that doesn't mean you have to keep – we shouldn't have to play Wake Forest every year. That's not a rivalry of ours.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like the schedule diversity angle on this. I also understand that if you did this, it kind of levels the playing field. You don't have a UCF situation. They would be in here and have a chance to play for it, not have to just say they deserved it, all of that. If this came to fruition, Notre Dame would be forced to join, so you can eliminate that debate. So it cleans up some of that. But I want to see what this next playoff arrangement is going to be too. If you're going to expand the teams, like, I don't know, man. I've seen this 4 mega conference thing talked about, and then I've seen people wanting to have 8 conferences, 10 conferences. Like, I've seen all these different ideas, and I come back to the same question: is it realistic, or are these just people saying it because it's a fun project in the summer? I don't know.
Well, I think it's both. I think it's realistic in the long term because we already know that everything in college football takes 20 years to get done.
Yeah.
Listen, before the playoffs ever happened, they talked about it for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
And so, the whole super conference thing that's been talked about for a while, actually,
Yeah.
but it's so hard to get all we were going back to what we were talking about earlier we need one governing body that makes decisions. All these conferences work independently and they all have to agree on things for things to happen. And it's like getting a bunch of Republicans and Democrats and independents into a room and trying to get them to agree on a bill. It just doesn't happen very easily.
That's another interesting thing you just brought up, because the other thing I keep reading on the back end of all these articles is this would be an opportunity for all these conferences to break away from the NCAA completely and say,
I'm for that.
We don't need your structure. We don't need you. We're going to do our own thing. And these are all of our member institutions. And we're going to set up our own thing. And we don't need you.
They already are doing their own thing. That's my point.
Yeah.
Is the NCAA is nothing but a disciplinary body at this point. That's all. They're not making decisions for anybody. The only thing they do is dole out discipline.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep. Yeah. And usually retroactively and in an illogical fashion when they do it. Yeah. So I don't get it.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I feel like either get rid of the NCAA altogether, and become an independent body. Just all the teams come together as one independent body.
Yeah.
And have and elect a president and a whatever, sort of like the NFL does, which probably is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Or just keep it like it is, which is obviously not working to everybody's benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're going to have these trends where certain divisions are really down or a conference is down. Everything's kind of cyclical in college football. But you do have your weaker divisions. I get all that, I don't know. But I just keep seeing these articles pop up and everybody's acting like this is it's reality. And I don't fully understand it, honestly.
Can you imagine a utopia, John, where every team was independent? There was no conferences at all.
Ooh,
how would that work?
I don't know if I would like that though, because you're going to have some of those teams. If you let them schedule on their own, they're going to schedule 12 nobodies to go 12-0. That's what'll happen if you let them everybody be independent.
Everybody's independent, but they still have a governing. But they're all part of one sort of overhanging organization where they sort of like the NFL. I mean, the Carolina Panthers don't decide who they're going to play.
Yeah, you're right. So I don't know. How
that will never happen. What I just said, the last thing. I mean, that's a complete, that's an acid trip sort of situation. That's not happening.
Yeah, I understand the theory though. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. All right. So we've gone for an hour now. Do you want to tell a 4th of July story real quick? It is happy 4th of July, everybody.
Yeah, happy 4th of July. It just feels weird. Like we're already at 4th of July. It doesn't really seem like we've had a regular summer just because of everything going on.
Yeah.
But I was thinking back to dumb firework stuff that I've done because every night now in the neighborhood you're hearing people shoot them off. The dogs are shaking in the corner.
Dude, I don't know what it's like there. What are the firework laws like in Illinois?
In Illinois, you're not technically allowed to have like the big banging ones. You got to cross the Illinois-Indiana border, go to Indiana to buy them, then drive back. Like if you want the big, the big shooting ones. Dude,
it's a free for all here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like what they in the Star Spangled Banner when they say the bombs bursting in air and all that. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like a war zone outside of my house, and it's not just for the night before and the night of. It's for 2 weeks leading up to it, and 2 weeks after. It's crazy down here. There's a fireworks stand on every corner. There's no restrictions down here as far as I mean. you could buy whatever, I'm sure some of the shit they're selling around here is illegal too, but
yeah, like it's wild, man. Like even in Illinois, it was when we were younger, like teenagers, it was a big deal when dad got you in the car, drove you across the border to Indiana, you buy some illegal fireworks and drive them back across the border, But every neighborhood has that fireworks guy, the guy who's like, watch me shoot this one out from my mouth, like there's always some guy who's pushing it,
I have one of those guys.
A digit.
I have one of those guys in my family, so I'll tell you this story real quick. First of all, when I was a kid, we were crazy, and we would get a bunch of fireworks. We'd shoot them at each other. We had what we called firework wars. We're 10, 12 years old. Now I would never let my kid do that.
Yeah, the Roman candle war shooting.
Oh yeah, shoot them, and I'm lucky I didn't lose an eye or some sort of digit. You're right, but so I guess it was about maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, whatever, 4 or 5 years ago. At my old house. So my in-laws, my brother-in-law is a, well, how do I put this nicely? He's crazy. And he's the exact type of person you don't want to have fireworks. Now, he's actually, to make this even funnier, he's coming over to my house this weekend on 4th of July with his kids, and we're going to grill out and have, drink and have fun. We told him specifically, we're not doing fireworks this year at our house because. So anyway, about 3 or 4 years ago, at the house we used to live at, he was over there, and it was late at night. It was probably about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Things were getting a little bit out of hand, and I'm sitting on my front porch in a chair, and you have one of those roofs that goes over the porch and has like vinyl siding is the underneath part of it.
Yeah.
He sits down next to me, and he puts down his firework. And I'm not talking about a Roman candle or a bottle rocket or a sparkler or whatever. One of these giant fireworks that like you see when you go to Major League Baseball games. Okay. He sets it down between us between where we're sitting, and he starts flicking his lighter, pretending as if he's going to light it, but not really trying to light it. And I'm looking at him like, you better not. He accidentally lights it. And when I tell you, it was the apocalypse on that front porch. You have never seen a white boy run so fast. I jumped up probably 3 feet when that thing started going off, and it was like World War III. You had never seen a white boy run so fast. I jumped up to probably 3 feet out of my chair and dove into my lawn like I was a grenade went off. And then the aftermath of that was, first of all, luckily I didn't get burned or
that's what I was going to ask. What was the damage?
The damage was to the roof of my porch. There was holes in it and black marks all over it. And I'm telling you, I don't think I spoke to him for a couple of weeks after that.
Wait, now was he intoxicated, or was this straight up sober, or was it a little of both?
I think we were definitely intoxicated.
Yeah. So I have a story similar to that. It's kind of in the ballpark of what I was going to say. Here's how dumb we were. This is probably sophomore year of college, summer, you're 20 years old or whatever. Everybody comes back for the summer. And I had a couple friends who rented a farmhouse, and it was awesome. Out of the city, you could do whatever you want. No cops. You could have keggers, we'd light fires, ride dirt bikes, shoot guns, everything you wanted to do. And on this property, there was the big grain silos, that you see everywhere.
Yeah.
And there was nothing in them. So you just have the big metal cylinder that you could go in. So of course, we have a few pops all day, and about midnight, 1 a.m, we have this genius idea. Not any of the big ones, but like the regular little bottle rockets with the stick. They're sold by the gross, they call them, and they're in those little bundles. Mm-hmm. So we decided to take a whole shitload of them, put them all in a big bucket inside the grain silo, lock all of us in, shoot them all off, and they just ricochet and ping all over everywhere. They're hitting you. People are jumping. So you light them. The whole place was smoked out, and they're just going like bullets ricocheting everywhere. People are getting hit, Yeah. You come out of there and you got big holes in your shorts where the burn mark was. Now,
man, we're idiots.
I was going to say, like, this is not my proudest moment, but I do recall it being like kind of cool at the time. Now,
yeah.
Pigskin, I value my golf game too much to even pick up a firework now. That's all I need is to blow off a digit. No.
I don't mess with fireworks. I haven't messed with fireworks probably 10, 15 years.
Nope. I don't need it. I'll let somebody else blow their hand off for my entertainment while I'm sitting there with the beer. I don't need that.
Yeah, I'm like,
I don't need it.
The older you get, the less desirable fireworks become. I mean, I'm with you. I'd rather sit on a towel or sit on a chair and just watch other people shoot fireworks.
Yep. I don't need that. I don't need that problem. But yeah, that's one memory I have, like, vaguely.
I do have a very crazy story I'm going to tell tomorrow night on my live stream.
Ooh.
As far as a 4th of July experience that we had on the water, which was crazy.
Ooh. But, I'll tune into that.
Yeah, I'll leave that for tomorrow night. I'm doing a 4th of July special tomorrow night. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what do you think, man? We've already gone over an hour. I feel like we talk for 2 minutes and an hour goes by every week now.
Time flies when you're having fun, John.
It really does. So do you have anything else? I think that's it for this week.
I think that's it. Anything else I say will be incoherent at this point, which is pretty much most of what I say anyway. So,
well, I just hope everybody has a good 4th. It's been a challenging spring and summer. Hopefully everybody could do something with their family and friends to just relax. You know, everybody deserves it. It's been a rough, stressful run for everybody in one way or another.
Yeah. So we'll take this opportunity to wish everybody a happy 4th of July. I hope everybody gets together with their families, cooks out, stays safe. No firework accidents out there.
No COVID parties, and don't blow off a digit. Okay.
Yes. You need all your digits to type in to get on YouTube to watch us.
Yeah, so, exactly.
So no digits missing. We don't. What's that guy's Pierre St. Paul? When he the one that blew off his finger?
Hell yeah! Did you see that mangled mess he's working with now?
Yeah. He's got like a whole contraption that they gave him some kind of bionic glove,
dude.
to wear.
That was a mess when that happened, dude.
That's actually, I feel sorry for the guy because obviously it was an accident. You know, he wouldn't. You know, but man, that's terrible. And you hear stuff about that every year too.
Oh, yeah.
At least in here where I live locally in the local paper, we call it the fireworks stories. The next morning after 4th of July or New Year's. There's always at least 10 stories in there where somebody blew off their hand or blew their eye out. It's always, and it's terrible too. It's not really
dude. I mean, the combo of drinking 25 beers and then lighting something on fire usually doesn't end great. Like that's the formula we're working with here.
I know. And when you give, access to crazy people to buy as much firepower as they want to fireworks and give them free will to shoot it off.
Yeah. It's,
that's the South for you, right there.
It's wild. It isn't quite that wild here, but every neighborhood has that one guy. I'm gonna light this one off from my mouth. Like,
yeah.
Okay, buddy. Whatever. Just do it over there.
Imagine
what over there.
Imagine what those COVID partiers from Alabama are going to be doing.
I don't even want to know. Oh God! All right, everybody. Happy 4th of July. Stay safe. We'll be back next week.
All right. See you later, everybody.